And we are live. So
Hey.
we are live here from Terminal X. As you guys know, you've obviously seen my face around the terminals on Instagram, on even the website and things like that as well. So welcome to our first live session, and thanks for making it on here. I'm assuming that you've all received your welcome packs, so you'll probably, recognize my face from that as well. If my name doesn't ring a bell to you guys, I am Danny, and I'm the guide here at Terminal X. So I'm also a very fortunate person, I would like to say, because tonight I am here and I get to chat with one of the most interesting people I've ever met, and one of our creators on Terminal X. So his name is Tim Ford. So say hi, Tim, to everyone.
Hey guys.
So Tim is a global shoe designer. Like, he has literally done it all. He has designed shoes for Nike. He's also designed shoes for, specialized shoes as well for Rodger, Federer, and other incredible sportsmen like that. So he has also 15 years experience, Tim does, in designing footwear. And he not only is incredible at designing shoes, bags, etc., but he also is a musician, which really interests me because I too am a musician. And Tim is pretty impressive with playing the guitar, the saxophone, which is a really unique instrument. When did you start playing the saxophone?
I started playing the sax at the start of high school, actually, in grade 7. Me and my best friend both just started playing at the same time. So, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, no, it's like, I would love to learn the saxophone. Along with the drums, actually, I'd really like to learn the drums. And did you get into guitar and piano? When did you get into guitar and piano?
I just kind of taught myself those two. I always had a piano at home growing up. So
you come from like a musical family, would you say?
Not really. There wasn't a lot of my parents love music, but neither of them were musicians. I think my mum always wanted to learn the saxophone, which is why I ended up learning the saxophone. She could kind of live that through me. And the guitar as well. Had a guitar sitting around at home and just kind of started to teach myself.
Yeah. Well, I guess you and I are pretty similar with the music side. We're also pretty similar with the snowboarding side, because you like snowboarding as well. Do you snowboard or ski?
I snowboard. I started out skiing when I was young, like when I was around 10 or 11, but then switched over to snowboarding in my late teens. And through university, I did an entire ski season in California.
Oh, wow.
At the end of uni. So, that's probably, after basketball, that's probably my second favorite sport.
Yeah. So you've snowboarded then in America as well. Where else? America, Australia?
Yeah, in Europe as well.
Yeah.
In Italy.
So
that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's so good. That's awesome. Okay, guys. So I know that you must all have probably a million questions, and you're probably thinking, Daniela, like Danny, you might need to just zip it so that we can actually hear from the creator, because he's the one we're here for. But I did want to mention, if you do have any questions, just pop them in the comments box, because we will at the end have a Q&A. So Tim's going to kind of talk us through his professional and his personal life, and he's got some really key points to kind of go through as well. But if he doesn't answer any of those questions while he's speaking, please drop them in the comments box and I will be your spokesman. So I'd like to kick off by asking, firstly, where did this all started? Like, where did it all start for you? Because I know, for one, I'm really interested in knowing, how this started from the beginning for you, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good question. I've always loved drawing. For as long as I can remember, when I was 4 or 5, I loved drawing things. And I know when I was about 5 years old, Mum and Dad have this sketch that I did when I was about that age of a soccer boot. Or it might have been like a boot for rugby league at the time, so maybe I didn't know what soccer was. But that's kind of the first memory I have of like using sketching to create something new, not just sketching something I'd already seen before, but sketching something that I wanted to create that was totally new. So my earliest memory of and passion for design is actually drawing shoes, which is what I ended up doing for a living, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But where it really kind of took hold was in the early 90s, and I've got some slides that I'm going to show you guys in a minute. Basketball, and particularly Michael Jordan, you know, he was the most recognizable person in the world, and basketball was everywhere. You know, all the kids played basketball, and, you know, 92, 93, and I was like 9, 10 years old. You know, that was what I wanted to do, and I used to just draw shoes, design shoes for my favorite players. So,
yeah,
you know, I kind of took a few different paths through my career to get to footwear design, but, you know, ultimately, you know, it made sense that was what I would do.
Yeah. So, what were some of those paths that you took to kind of get you to where you are?
Yeah. So, footwear design, like, I never, when I was a kid, even realized that was a job that someone did. So, like, going through high school, you know, I knew I was good at drawing, but I was also good at things like maths and physics. So I kind of started to veer more towards things like engineering, which, you know, might have ended up designing bridges or something like that. Who knows? But it wasn't until time came that I had to actually choose what university course I wanted to do that I discovered what industrial design was. And it wasn't until years later that I figured out that footwear design is actually a part of industrial design.
Yeah.
So I went to uni and studied, and, you know, got a job in a slightly different field, which then led to footwear design, which I'll show you guys in a minute.
Yeah. So what courses do you think, and this was actually a question that Samuel asked me, he asked me that on Instagram. He actually asked, like, what courses, or did you take any courses outside of high school? Or if not, what kind of extracurricular activities or even things that you did in high school have helped you, I guess, with this? Like, was it art, or was it maybe you did basketball as a hobby and you saw a lot of shoes there, and, you know?
Yeah, so definitely being, you know, enthusiastic about sport and playing lots of sports was a huge part of kind of what led me to where I am. I didn't really do a lot of courses like in high school outside of class. Definitely the classes and the subjects that I took in high school kind of helped get me where I am. So like I said, I did maths and physics and chemistry, which might sound super boring, but at the end of the day, like, they were really helpful in understanding materials like plastics and metals and wood and how to use those when you're designing products. I also did art, which was super important. Obviously, you know, I love drawing and being creative, so learning art history as well, which then led to me kind of learning about design history, was also super important.
Yeah. What was your first big break then? Like, if it was outside of school, you went to university, what was the next step? What was the next big thing for you?
Yeah, so my kind of lucky break was after I finished uni and I did my ski season in Lake Tahoe, California. I came back to Sydney, where I grew up, and a friend of mine from university was like a really good surfer. He had got a job designing wetsuits for Quicksilver. At the time, they were based out of Torquay, which is near Bells Beach in Victoria, at the start of the Great Ocean Road. So he was designing wetsuits there, and he just said, "Hey, there's this job in bag design. You know, designing backpacks and surfboard covers and luggage and duffel bags and all that sort of stuff." And, you know, I never designed a bag in my life, but, you know, it sounded like a pretty cool brand to work for, pretty cool lifestyle, living near the beach. So I went for it. And,
so you moved down to Victoria then?
Sorry?
So you moved down to Victoria?
Yeah. So I'd been back in Sydney for a few months and, then moved down to Victoria, and that was my first real design job at the start of my career.
Wow. So how old were you around then? Were you in your 20s?
Yeah, so I would have been 22 or 23 when I started there. So, you know, I finished uni, and then, you know, about a year later started that job.
Yeah. you then went on to join Nike. I've obviously been doing some stalking on you, and you went to then join one of like the biggest companies in the world. How was that, and how did that happen?
That was lucky as well. Well, it's a lot of hard work too. But so I've been at Quicksilver for about a little less than 5 years. I kind of worked myself from junior designer up to a senior designer, and my portfolio caught someone's attention at Nike. They have recruiters at Nike whose job it is just to go searching around the world for talent to bring into the company.
Yeah.
They found my profile on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's been a really great tool for me in finding work.
Yeah, LinkedIn, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. That's where even now as a independent designer, freelance designer, I get a lot of my work through LinkedIn. People find my profile. They're looking for a specialist designer, and they find me.
Yeah.
That's how Nike found me. So they called me up, and I had an interview over the phone, and I flew over to Portland, Oregon for an interview,
wow.
and then
That's
my wife and I moved over there.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't, like, obviously, I knew LinkedIn was really important, but like I didn't actually realize that, it opened so many doors. Like I think that's something great for like anyone who's listening to know as well, that LinkedIn is, the professional Facebook, I guess. It's a really great way to kind of, especially if you're an entrepreneur or a freelancer, you want to do anything on the side, as your hustle might end up being something bigger than that.
Yeah, and when that happened was kind of before Instagram. Facebook was even still, so that was the kind of easiest way for them to find me. And at the time that the people from Nike called, I did a search for bag designer on LinkedIn, and my name was like in the first couple of results. So if you have a specialized kind of job, it can be quite easy for people to find you and find work that way.
Yeah, yeah. So you went and worked for Nike in the USA. How was it moving to a completely different country? How was that?
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun. The US was good, and doing what I do, I always figured I'd have to move overseas eventually, because the design industry in Australia is pretty small. Mm-hmm. It's getting bigger and bigger, and there's more and more companies starting here, and it's much easier to get things made overseas than it used to be. But I always figured I'd have to move overseas, and US was easy. They speak the same language. Yeah. We know American culture. We watch so much American TV. Yeah. I was excited to move to a city where they had an NBA team.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Especially being like such a basketball fan, that would have been insane.
Yeah, and snowboarding as well. So
true.
Oregon has a mountain like an hour and a half away where you can go snowboarding. So
that would have been perfect. Literally the perfect combo. You couldn't have moved to a better place if you tried.
Yeah.
But when you started with Nike, who were you working with? What kind of people were you working with?
I started as a bag designer at Nike, so that was kind of my foot in the door. And a couple of years after starting there, I moved over to footwear design. So when I started as a bag designer, and the teams are pretty similar between bags and footwear. You have the product designer, which is myself. We're kind of responsible for the overall design, the shape of it, the function of it. You have to think about the materials and the colors and all that kind of stuff. But then you have a team around you. So you have material designers whose sole job it is to go out and find like the right material at the right price.
Wow.
You have color designers who are experts in color theory, and they know how to put colors together on one product. You have engineers who know all the like physics and chemistry of the materials.
There's so much that comes into it.
I know there's a huge team of people responsible for one product.
Yeah.
And we're all working on multiple products at a time. So it's not like there's 40 people working on one thing, but there's a lot of people that help you kind of get that bag or that shoe out into the market.
So what kind of athletes give? I guess I know a couple like Rodger, Federer and things off the top of my head, but who were some of the athletes that you were designing for?
Yeah, and I have to make a small correction. I designed a bag for Rodger Federer, not shoes.
A bag, okay. Oh, I mean, wow.
Yeah, Rodger's one of the big ones. I worked with a lot of soccer players, Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, Wayne Rooney, Rafa Nadal. In basketball, I designed products for LeBron James, Kobe, Kyrie, Irving. Who else?
Jeez.
Yeah.
That would have been so cool, just seeing them walking around either in your shoes or like wearing your stuff. Like just knowing that just started off as, a little like something that was of interest to you as a 5-year-old kid, and then all of a sudden, hey, look at who's wearing your gear.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like seeing them wear the product is the coolest thing. Like after the next coolest thing is seeing some random person on the street wearing something you designed. Like if you're in a foreign country and someone's wearing a pair of shoes or carrying your bag, like that's one of the coolest feelings.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ultimate is watching, your sports heroes actually. Product.
So what inspires you then to kind of get this idea or get this design happening? Like, do you have a certain, when you're wanting to come up with something new, do you have a certain ritual that you go and do? Do you go to the beach and do you look at the water, or do you, travel the world, or what's your kind of inspiration to get these designs to paper?
Yeah, it's a combination of all those things. Like, obviously, we do a lot of internet research, but one thing I've been really fortunate to do through my career is a lot of travel. Travel's amazing for getting inspiration. Like, it's not just like what you see, but it excites you and it gives you energy. You come back to work feeling better about your job, and inspires you that way. And I've got to travel to so many amazing places for my job. Tokyo, Paris, London, New York, LA, Chicago, Amsterdam, Copenhagen.
For work.
And all for work. And really what we're doing when we go to these places is just looking at things.
Yeah.
We're watching people. We're going to the stores and seeing how people are dressing, what people are buying. We're going to sporting events and seeing how a team's fans might dress so that it can help us design products for that
research.
team. Yeah, and all under the research. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. It would be a tough gig, I must say. It must be a tough gig. What sports then? What sports do you design for? Obviously.
Yeah, so basketball, obviously one we've talked about.
Yeah.
So in footwear, basketball, running, men's training and women's training, so like gym shoes.
Okay.
But in bags, I've designed for a whole lot more. Tennis, baseball, obscure sports like lacrosse. Basically, like anything that Nike does, I've designed bags for that sport.
Wow, that's cool. So your scope is quite large. And the shoes, which I'm sure you'll show me a little bit later, they differ heaps depending on the sport as well, hey?
Yeah, so much. Like, apart from just the look of the shoe, there's so much research and thought that goes into how the shoe performs.
Yeah.
We're designing for athletes, and they're wearing them while they do their sport. So every sport has unique performance needs, and you have to design against those.
Yeah. Well, did you want me to share your screen with you, and we'll pop up some of those just so that the guys can get a bit of a visual of what you're up to, and then we'll kind of tease those few things out if that works for you.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a slideshow, gives you a little bit more insight into my career and what I've done over the years, show you some of the products.
Perfect. Let's do this.
Good to go?
Yeah, we're good to go.
All right. So yeah, as I mentioned, my profession is called industrial design. I know that kind of might sound, it's a little bit of a confusing name. So it kind of sounds like you're designing, big machines or something like industrial design. But basically, industrial design is designing products. So everything from cars, computers, your iPhone, furniture, shoes, like this all comes under industrial design. So it's a really, really broad, area of work. The way I kind of classify myself is as a technical soft goods designer. So soft goods is basically anything that's made out of fabrics that isn't clothes, is a simple way to put that. And technical soft goods are obviously, complicated fabric products. So for me, that's mostly bags and shoes. as I mentioned, where it all started back in the 90s, being a massive basketball fan, watching the NBA, watching Michael Jordan, Larry Johnson was another one of my favourite players. And yeah, just really being a huge fan and then wanting to design the shoes that they wore. On the right is the first pair of Nikes I ever had, which was the Air Jordan 8. So yeah, that was kind of my entry into being a bit of a sneakerhead.
Definitely, they look awesome too.
So yeah, as I mentioned, when I finished high school, I got into industrial design. I did that at University of Technology Sydney, UTS. Really great course if anyone who's interested in designing products, wants to look into that. And when I went to uni, what I was really most interested in at the time was car design. So car design is like probably like the very top of industrial design in terms of the skills that are required and what goes into it. But it's also a very competitive industry, so it's really hard to get into. But when I finished uni, I still kind of wanted to be a car designer. As it turns out, the story I told you, I ended up kind of just falling into bag design, which led me to shoe design, which in the end was way better.
Yeah, and such a cool lifestyle with that as well. Hey.
Yeah, and I think car design is kind of a bit more of a formal kind of industry, whereas what I'm doing, wear sneakers and t-shirts to work and live by the beach or live in the US, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, my first job in industrial design was designing bags for Quicksilver, and this was also the first place that I got to start to work with professional athletes. Kind of got a taste for that, and what really made me want to move on to Nike. So the bag on the left that you can see there is Travis Rice signature snowboard pack. So if you guys don't know, Travis Rice is an amazing backcountry snowboarder. This is a cool shot of Travis wearing that backpack in the promo for a movie he did called The Art of Flat. Any of you that are into snowboarding, and if you haven't seen that movie, I strongly recommend you go out and give that one a watch.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put that in Slack tonight for all the listeners as well, just in case we forget it.
Yeah, I mean, The Art of Flat is not just a really amazing snowboarding, but really well shot, just amazing visuals, just really fun to watch. So yeah, from there I went over to Nike, starting with bags, and kind of the way I positioned myself as a designer was really trying to be as innovative as possible, coming up with new ideas and new ways of doing things. So this is a great example of a tennis bag that I did, where instead of it lying flat on the ground where it's kind of hard to get to everything, just kind of turn it 90 degrees and stood it upright. So everything you need is at arm's reach when you need it. And this is a cool little running pack I did that had a compression system, so you just pull these tabs at the side and the whole thing locks down onto your body and doesn't jiggle around as you're running.
Oh, that's so good.
This is a pretty cool bag I did for Nike's ACG brand, which is like their outdoor brand. But yeah, you can see it's got this unique kind of X-shaped zipper system. And when you kind of undo all of those zippers, the thing just lies totally flat, and you can access all the internal pockets, or you can just open one side at a time, depending on what you want to get to in your bag.
That's so practical. Is that still on the market? Because I'm seriously interested.
Yeah, there's a version of that. I think it's called I think it's still called the Responder. It's a cheaper version of than the it's still got that X-shaped zipper system.
So good.
And there's some details of it you can see.
It comes in matte black as well. Happy about that.
Stealthy. So as I mentioned, this dude, that's Rodger Federer. That's my bag. That was one of my early highlights at Nike. The bag he's carrying is actually a soccer bag that I designed. He saw someone with it on campus and told someone he wanted it, and ended up using a version of that duffel bag at every single tournament he played at for the next 3 years. So that was super cool. You can see when he's in all white there, every time he stepped out on Wimbledon, he's carrying that bag. The French Open, Australian Open in the bottom left. he carried that bag for a long time. So
that is so good.
Yeah, that was really nice. And that was like, he had a modified version of the soccer bag. It was a bit bigger, it had more compartments, but it was kind of set up exactly the way he needed it.
Yeah.
This was a super cool project. So I designed this bag for the 2014 Soccer World Cup. This is basically done just to kind of get a bit of publicity for Nike bags, because, you know, all the marketing is spent on shoes, because that's, you know, what Nike's known for. So we kind of did this just to kind of say, hey, Nike makes pretty cool bags too. And so the bottom of this is actually 3D printed. So that's kind of, at the time, was a technology that wasn't really being used to make products. But the top of it is just like traditional leather. So bringing this like ultra new technology with this really traditional technology kind of made this pretty cool bag.
Would you say that this is your favourite project or your best project?
This is definitely my favourite bag project.
Okay.
And, you know, I've got probably got a favourite footwear project as well. But yeah, this is super cool because it was also really exclusive. Like, we only made 4 of these. You can see that one, the name on it is Neymar, so he carried that one around at the World Cup. The other 2 were made for Cristiano Ronaldo and Wayne Rooney. And then the 4th one is sitting in my parents' garage in the Blue Mountains.
Wow.
So I'm pretty lucky to, I'm in pretty good company there. It's just me and those 3 dudes have this bag.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And there you go, that's Ronaldo getting off the plane when he arrived in Brazil with the bag, getting off the private jet with the rest of the Portuguese team.
Yeah. Physically seeing that is pretty cool. Like, I can't imagine what it'd be like for you, but like, I'm speaking to you and I'm seeing the stuff that, you know, and even just in everyday use, I guess, just being able to, like, knowing that you've created a product that actually works.
Yeah. So yeah, Ronaldo, my bag. Life for me. So yeah, after a few years doing bags at Nike, I finally found my way over to footwear design, which was kind of the dream job. You know, it took me a few years to get there, but you know, it was worth it. And I got some amazing experience, as you can see, with the bag stuff along the way. Got to work with some, you know, pretty amazing athletes that I wouldn't have got to work with in footwear necessarily. So
yeah, it's kind of like it all happens for a reason, I guess.
Yeah. And so this is the first Nike shoe I designed. It's a basketball shoe, obviously, called the Zoom Evidence. This is another basketball shoe, the Air Max Infuriate. I did some training shoes, as I mentioned.
I like those.
This one's called the Flex Trainer 7.
Are they good for running?
Sorry?
Are they good for running?
They're good for a bit of light running, so it's kind of like a cross trainer. You can get in the gym and go on a treadmill with it and have no problem, but you can also do like a hit, like a high intensity class if you wanted to. It's kind of one of those versatile shoes for the gym that you can do a little bit of everything.
Oh, cool.
And then some men's training shoes. So this is another kind of versatile training shoe where you do a bit of running, a bit of weightlifting, whatever it is you want to do in the gym. Yeah, all in all, I did about 20 different Nike models over the few years that I was doing shoes there.
So how long does
training basketball?
Yeah. So how long does this process actually take? And I think it's actually one that one of our viewers actually asked. They said, you know, what's the actual process of creating a shoe?
Yeah, so the creation process is relatively quick. You know, we probably spend about maybe a month coming up with the design, and then like a couple more months working on prototypes and refining it. Maybe like the most you'll spend actually designing the shoe would be 6 months, but that's like an extreme case. Usually it's only a few months working on it. But for it then to come to market, to be available in stores can be, you know, it can be up to 18 months. Like it can be a year and a half from when you first you know, do your first sketch or have your first meeting or, you know, do your first bit of research to when the shoe actually comes out. So yeah, the creation process is quick, but actually seeing it in stores takes a while.
Yeah. I might even put you so we can see a bit of your face as well, because that way, yeah, you continue. Sorry, I was just making sure that we can see your face there as well, because you are the star of the stream.
Yeah, I've been gesticulating and waving my hands around and none of you can see. So.
No one's even got to see that.
And so this is a highlight footwear design project for me. So I got the chance to work with an NBA player on one of their signature shoes, finally, like what I was doing when I was a kid. Someone was actually paying me to do it as an adult, which was super cool.
Yeah.
This is for a player named Kyrie, Irving, one of the best-known point guards in the NBA. Was a teammate of LeBron James when the Cleveland Cavaliers won the championship a few years back. I got to design a shoe for him that he would eventually go on to wear at All-Star Weekend in 2017. So
wow.
That's Kyrie on the left there.
Yeah.
A special pair of the shoes. At that time, he'd moved on to play for Boston, so that was like a Boston-themed shoe that he was wearing.
Whoa. So does the design process differ depending on the shoe that you make as well? Like, is it longer for, say, if you're going to make a specialized shoe for someone? Is that design process longer than what it would be if you were to make, say, a general running shoe?
No, not really, because at the end of the day, these shoes are still going to be sold in stores. So you still have to follow like the same calendars, the same seasons.
Yeah.
So in fashion, you have seasons like spring, fall, and the product is going to come out at a certain time. So you still have like about the same amount of time to design and develop this shoe.
Yeah.
But it definitely adds an extra kind of step in the process when you have to work with an athlete and make sure that they're happy with the design of the shoe.
Yeah.
It's not just you, it's not just your manager and the rest of your team that has to be happy with it. Like, obviously, this guy has to have the final say.
So what is the process? It would be, say, get an inspiration, then put pen to paper. Do you usually sketch on paper or online?
So I do a combination. I still fill sketchbooks full of sketches all the time. Using pen and paper is usually the quickest and easiest way to work if I just want to get an idea out of my head and kind of, onto paper. That's the way to do it. But most of my presentation sketching I do digitally. So I'm not sure if you can see on the small image, but I use this thing called a Wacom tablet. So, it has a pen and kind of just works like paper, but I'm sketching digitally.
And so that just goes onto the computer? I'm so not a tech nerd, so you have to, yeah.
So that goes onto the computer, and there's you can do the same thing on your iPhone. It's obviously not the same size, but iPads and iPad Pros, Microsoft Surface products, you can get a pen for those, and with the software they have, you can sketch directly onto the screen. So that's another cool tool.
So then what happens after you've made your sketch?
So after you've done the sketches, you would usually move into a program called Adobe Illustrator. So in Illustrator, you're kind of drawing it more to scale. You're putting in more of the details. You're kind of drawing it in a way that you can then send it to a factory and everything's kind of the right dimensions and the right shapes.
Yeah.
And that would be sent off to the factory. Then the factory would kind of take your drawings, your dimensions, all of the information that you give them about materials, color, etc., and they would make you a prototype. So they would make a physical shoe for you. And usually those prototypes are a specific size. So for running, sample size is a US men's 10 or 9. For women's, it's a US 7, so you'll get back a shoe in that size.
Yeah.
Then when you have that sample, you can look at it, you can decide what you want to change, and you send comments and new drawings back to the factory, and you kind of do that a few times until you get the shoe right.
Yeah. So from the initial designing the shoe to the shoe on the shelf, how long would you say that would be roughly? Like a year or a
Usually
month?
Usually a year and a half.
A year and a half?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a long process, because then once the shoe's finished and it's approved, then you'll make a bunch of samples, which will go to the sales reps. The sales reps will take them to the stores. Then the stores will put in an order for how many they want to make, and then they go into production, and production takes a couple of months. And with some of these shoes we're talking about, they sell up to a couple of million pairs in one season.
Yeah.
So sometimes 10 million pairs in a year. So production runs are quite long. So that's why the timeline is so big.
Yeah. So did you have any mentors or anyone to kind of help you initially when you got into Nike? Did you have anyone to kind of mentor you, or was that a teacher maybe in high school that you had?
I've had a few, and they've been throughout my career. So the first I would say was a guy named Ryan Price. So when I started at Quicksilver, he was the senior bag designer, so I worked below him. And me just coming into the industry, I didn't know really anything about bags, and he'd already had quite a lot of experience designing bags for the action sports market. And I learned so much about designing soft goods from him.
Yeah.
So he was the first guy. Then when I went over to Nike, there was also the senior designer in bags, a guy named Rodger. Who's, both these guys are still good friends of mine. I still talk to them. But he taught me a lot about how to work in a company of that size, which was super important. So he was also a super talented designer, and I learned a lot from him about bag design, but also about how to navigate being a designer in such a huge company.
Yeah.
With so many people around you, all doing different tasks, and how to be a good teammate and how to work well with others.
Yeah, definitely.
The last was when I went into footwear design. So my manager in when I was my whole time in footwear design at Nike was a guy named Sergio Lozano. Sergio had been at Nike for years, and was like a legend of the footwear design world, particularly at Nike. He designed a shoe called the Air Max 95.
Oh wow!
It's an iconic shoe, and that's kind of what he's known for. But he's also a super nice guy, and taught me a lot about footwear and how to be an effective footwear designer.
Yeah, I think it's really good to know as well, because sometimes it can be so overwhelming when you see so many people doing successful things and following their passion and their dreams, such as you. And kind of figuring out, did they get there on their own? And of course, that's a massive part of it, but also knowing that it's good to have help and, having people around you that are inspirational and much like Terminal X, I guess, that have the creators around you just kind of help you navigate your way forward with that as well. Yeah,
for sure. I work on my own now, and I really notice the difference not having people around me just to bounce ideas off, or even just talk to the day. Like having other creative people around you, whether they're designers or people. Everyone I work with at Nike was creative in what they did, whether they were developers or in marketing or engineers. Having those amazing minds around you just makes you better.
So what's super like for you at the moment then?
Yeah, so since I left Nike, we moved back here almost 3 years ago, and since I got back, I've been working as a freelance consultant. So basically, I work for myself. Companies hire me when they need an extra designer, or someone's trying to start a new brand and they don't know anything about footwear or bags. They'll find me, and I'll help them with their product. So for the last 3 years I've basically worked from home, which is pretty cruisy, but it can also be a bit of a trap when there's a television not too far away.
You've got to have that determination, I guess, which obviously you have, so that wouldn't be a problem. But it's good to have you back in Australia. I'm glad. That's awesome, especially at the moment. Like, we can have you designing some shoes and doing all that kind of fun stuff over here on our side of the world. You had some demos that you were talking about. I know before we jumped on here as well. Do you have those that we'd be able to have a look at? I'm sure some of the viewers would love to see the difference in maybe even a little challenge or something that you think you could set for them in designing their shoes. They've all got the template. So I guess it's now kind of spinning around ideas, inspiration, all those things you've talked about. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, when it comes to drawing, there's like extremes. Like there's something like this, which, takes quite a while. It's, it's very detailed. It really tells a story about a shoe, and it's, got quite a lot of emotion and it's dynamic. But then at the other end of the spectrum, like I use sketching all the time just to help kind of get ideas onto paper. I'll get the ideas out of my head, like they're all in there. But sketching as a designer, that's how you talk. That's how you communicate your ideas. So whether it's like these thumbnail sketches that you see on the right, just like getting a whole bunch of different kind of looks down on paper really quickly, or kind of using it as a communication tool to explain how something works or why something is kind of made the way it is. Yeah. So what I want to show you guys, and you got a little teaser of it in that little promo video that I did for Instagram. It's kind of more along the lines of these thumbnail sketches on the right. Like it's a really quick and easy and fun way to kind of get a bit of an intro into footwear design. You don't need to be an expert. I provided this template, so you don't even need to get the shape of the shoe right. That's all provided for you. But yeah, basically it's just a really kind of easy way for me to introduce you guys to the world of footwear design.
Yeah, definitely. So what would you add colour first, or what would be something, or is it each to their own?
Yeah, I mean it is. You can just go for it, and you don't have to follow the steps that I'm doing. But this is kind of a technique that Sergio, my mentor at Nike, kind of taught me, and I find it really, really helpful. And when I'm designing a shoe, there's obviously a lot of research, a lot of kind of science and stuff that goes into it before I even start sketching. Like, how does it need to perform? Is it like cushioned in the heel? Does it need to be tight in the midfoot? All these kind of things that you guys don't really need to know about now. But once I've kind of figured all that stuff out, what Sergio used to talk about is what makes the shoe iconic. And what he meant by that is, if you look at a shoe and, for 5 seconds and then walk away, are you going to remember what that shoe looks like? And it's those kind of design cues that make the shoe iconic and make it memorable. So what are you doing on this shoe that's going to make it memorable and make people remember it after they've seen it? And the way he kind of explained this is like bold gestures. So I'm going to start by taking this thumbnail shape, this template, and this is a running shoe template, by the way. So if I was going to do a basketball shoe, I'd probably use a different template. So, it's got obviously a higher ankle height, slightly thicker toe. It's got less of this, we call this heel spring, how much the toe lifts off the ground. So starting with this running template, I might just decide that I want to do some like bold circular shapes. And I might do a bunch of those. I might decide I want to do something wavy. So what is that kind of 1 or 2 lines that you can put down over this thumbnail that's going to make it like a memorable shoe?
Yeah. You can just do that off the cuff as well. You're just going.
I might want to do, some kind of V shape on the shoe. And like I mentioned, there's like a lot of thought those are exactly the same. A lot of research that goes into it, and I might kind of make this icon relate to the performance.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'll just hide those and do another one. Let's say it's a running shoe, and I know it needs to be cushioned in the heel, back here, and it needs to fit really snug in the midfoot, which is kind of this section down the middle here. Nice amount of foam cushioning back here, and then maybe some lines like this that tell me that something's going on in the midfoot of this shoe here. And already with 3 lines, I've got the design of a shoe. Obviously, there's a lot more detail we can add, but that's it can start that simply.
Yeah. Is that the best? That's probably like one of your most standout quotes, I guess, that you can have as well when applying to shoe design. Is it memorable?
is it memorable? For sure. Like every, famous shoe is famous for a reason. And, it might not be, a certain line or a certain shape. It might be a material they used. It might be the whole thing is like covered in holes and it's not just one big gesture or something like, but every kind of iconic shoe has something memorable about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what's your next part then now? What's your next step then now?
I mean, I would go through pages and pages of these,
yeah.
And they would all relate to the performance of the shoe and the style as well. Who is it for? What's that?
Yeah.
The customer's style. Yeah. But once I find something I like, I'm just going to figure out what I want to work with on this page. I'm going to go with this one right in the middle here. I think that's kind of pretty cool.
Sure.
So then I would take this and I would just kind of add a bit more detail. So I'm going to open my other template. So you guys should have this one as well. I'm going to have my other one just as a reference. So, have your page of thumbnails, off to the side so you can have it there as reference. And now I'm going to resketch this shoe in a bit more detail. And what I might actually do, rather than using, just to save time, I'm just going to use that thumbnail I did. So, there's certain things that I know as a footwear designer I need to put on here. And obviously you guys aren't going to be footwear experts straight away, but, I can provide something that will be available for download that it just kind of shows you what are the different parts of a shoe that go into making a shoe, like the midsole, the upper, the tongue, the quarter panels, all those kind of things. So you can kind of start to detail out and, add laces and straps and stuff like that.
Yeah, if anyone's looking for an extra challenge, obviously you've got the template, so you can do whatever you want. The template is your canvas. But yeah, as Tim said, if you're wanting a little bit of a further challenge, that knowing a bit of the anatomy of the shoe maybe, and like kind of figuring out what a shoe designer would really have to think about in this circumstance is definitely an idea.
Yeah, so one of the things I know this shoe needs, it's called a bite line, and that's basically where the midsole, the foam, the hard bit on the bottom, meets the fabric bits at the top, which is called the upper. So the bite line is kind of where those two join. Yeah. And actually, you know what? I'm going to actually make this line that I've already done, the bite line. So, I've already got like a pretty kind of crazy shape that's creating this unique midsole design. So some of the other things I know this needs, it needs a collar. So, the collar is the bit where, the leg comes out or the ankle comes out of the shoe. And collars can be all different kind of shapes. So I'm just going to do something a bit different here. So it kicks back a little bit. That's kind of a square shape there. Okay, the next thing I know this needs is a tongue and what's called an eye stay. So the eye stay is the bit kind of around the tongue where all the laces go in. The laces go into holes called eyelets. So those are eyelets, right? But the bit around the opening, the tongue opening, is called the eye stay. So I'm going to sketch that in. And I'm going to sketch in a tongue.
Oh, you can do that so quickly.
So yeah, you can already start to see the shoe coming together. I know this shoe needs a collar lining, so that's the material that kind of goes down into the inside of the shoe. Yeah. That's what your sock sits against. Yeah. I'm going to put a pull tab on the back of that, so that's kind of those little tags at the back that help you get your shoe on and off.
Yeah, they're a saviour, those ones.
Yeah.
They are a saviour.
I'm going to really loosely sketch some laces in here. I'm not going to go into detail, but one way I like to kind of stylize laces is just with like a bit of a squiggly line like this. Yeah. So, you don't have to like draw every lace coming in and out. You can just stylize it a bit. Yeah. And draw in the eye stay. So that's kind of this panel here where all the eyelets go through.
And so this is all on Illustrator as well?
This is called Sketchbook Pro.
Sketchbook Pro, okay, cool.
So yeah, this is actually a free download. So anyone can download it and have a play around. It works best with this tablet that I'm using. You can use your mouse if you want to have a play around with it. But yeah, it definitely works better with a tablet and stylus.
Yeah.
You can also get Sketchbook for your mobile devices as well, so you can get it on your iPhone and sketch with your finger. You can get it on your iPad and use the stylus on that.
I will definitely put that as well on Slack for you guys, just in case you forget, because if anyone's got a memory like I do, it's a bit like a goldfish. I forget very quickly. So I'll pop that in the comments for us as well, guys. But yeah, sorry, continue, Tim.
Yeah, so I'm just going to put a few more details on here. I'm going to do like a little panel at the back here that's kind of where that loop attaches. And yeah, I'm just kind of freestyling here. I'm just kind of having fun with it. I'm going to put a little bit of a toe cap on there to kind of protect the toe from abrasion, because this is a spot on shoes that kind of wears out really quickly. So you'll see on a lot of sneakers they have like this little bit of kind of thin plastic kind of molded around the front.
Yeah.
Kind of just stop that fabric from tearing through too easily.
It's great if you stub your toe like I do as well quite frequently. If you're a bit of a klutz, then it's also very much a handy tool to have in a shoe.
Yeah, so we call that the toe tip. That's kind of what the term is for that.
Toe tip.
Now I'm sketching in the outsole. So the outsole is the rubber on the bottom that kind of gives it its grip. And also like this bit here, this is called the midsole. So that's foam and that's what provides the cushioning. But foam is very soft, so it can't really be against the ground because it would just wear away. So that's why you put rubber, the outsole, on the bottom to stop that from wearing through.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've never thought about it like that, actually.
And I'm just going to add a few more lines in here on the midsole. Bit of shape.
You're all over it. Like, yeah, it's good to know this because I feel like this is going to help me buying shoes as well. I'm actually going to know what I'm buying. I'm going to go into a Foot Locker store and I'm going to be like, okay, well, does it have something to protect it so that the foam's not on the bottom? Does it have a toe tip? Like whatnot? You know the anatomy of the shoe, obviously, but that's all. You must be a jet at buying shoes.
Yeah, I know what I'm looking for. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, you can look at a running shoe, and if it's really like thick at the underneath the heel, and there's a lot of foam, it's going to be pretty well cushioned. So it's going to help when your foot lands, like with not getting a sore heel when you're running.
Yeah. So we are just running up in the last about 8 or so minutes here now, guys. Tim, do you have anything else that you wanted to add to your design or to the challenge or any of those kinds of things? Well,
the next step, if you want to do it, is adding color, and that's kind of fun as well. I'm just going to do it really loosely here since we're kind of running out of time. But, you can start to think about what's called color blocking, so where you apply color to the shoe. So I'm just going to do this really loose. So I'm just going to throw some color in here. Orange will do. Actually, I'm going to make that a grey because I'm going to put some orange somewhere else. So I'm going to make this...
the funnest step to me. The most fun, that step.
I'm going to make that collar lining. I'm going to make the tongue lining orange. So just a nice little pop of colour on a grey shoe. Make this outsole orange as well. Obviously, I would take a little more care with this if I had more time, but you can kind of start to get an idea of how quickly you can start to apply colour. Yeah, definitely. And, in terms of iconic, being memorable, like that shape that I drew initially, which has now become like the top of the midsole. Yeah. It's I've never seen that shoe before, so to me that's already unique, which is what you want to do. You want to create things that no one's ever created before. Yeah, definitely. It comes back to that. Yeah, remembering and having something that's a little bit different as well. I guess a question that I wanted to make sure viewers saw as well is like, what do you have any future goals or
or do you feel like you've kicked so much already that you're happy to freelance and see where the wind takes you?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So recently my wife and I left Sydney. We've kind of moved to a small town on the north coast of New South Wales, and I think eventually one day I'd like to try to start my own brand. That's kind of the end goal. But for now, I'm happy to live near the beach and design whatever people bring to me.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. I also want to let the viewers know that if there were any questions, like, feel free to add the comments on the below now, so that we can ask him any other questions that you had. I know we've been really thorough in this, which is so good. So hopefully we've answered them all already for you. But if not, and you think of something tomorrow morning, feel free to message me on Slack. So for those who aren't around Slack really is where I'm going to be announcing everything to do with our creators. Anything to do with Tim and his latest designs, anything to do with any of the creators at Terminal X in general. I know that Tim and all of our creators use Slack as well. It's an awesome tool just to kind of connect with your teammates. You can have separate channels. So, for example, there's a channel on Slack that is for acting, let's just say, or for sneaker design. So you can post whatever you want in there, and other group members can collaborate with you. I've got a question from Matt. So Matt has said, I'm in year 9 at the moment. What school subjects would you recommend for this sort of career?
Yeah, so like I said, I did a set of subjects that kind of set me up pretty well, but there's certain subjects I wish I had done. And I'm not a career guidance counsellor, and everyone's needs are different. You might need a certain mark to get into the course you want, and you might select your subjects based on that. 2 things I wish I'd done that I didn't do: design and technology, which is crazy. I don't know why I didn't do that. And the other one's music. I love music, but in the end I kind of steered towards things that I was good at, not necessarily things that I enjoyed. And I think having a good balance of those in high school is super important.
Yeah.
You want to get where you're going, but you don't want to kill yourself getting there. And I think having my career is really where my interests and my skills kind of cross over. I've always loved sport, and I'm good at drawing. And I found this career that lets me do both.
And you would never have thought that in high school. You would never have known that this is where you would have been.
I didn't even know what industrial design was when I was in high school, but I was already doing it.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. But yeah, I think art is definitely a good one for people who are creative. If you do want to get towards the more kind of technical design side of things, physics can be helpful, but it's you learn the skills you need at university, or you learn them on the job. What I think is most important is choosing what really makes you happy.
Yeah, awesome. That's wicked advice. I also second that. We have got another question from Jody. So just asking, what was your proudest moment and what was your biggest struggle during your career? They're 2 really good questions. Actually, both questions, or all 3 questions, have been really great. So thanks, guys. You guys are making my job heaps easier.
Proudest moment was when, so I've got a few products I can show you here as well. When I actually got a pair of the Kyrie Irving shoes in my own size,
Cool.
So they're box fresh. I haven't actually worn this pair. I've got another one that I've worn around. These ones will probably stay in condition.
Yeah.
I'm a size 13, so getting shoes that I've designed in my size was never easy, but this was really cool getting a pair of shoes with a nice logo. Sorry?
That would be your proudest moment?
I think so.
What would be your biggest struggle during your career?
Biggest struggle? It's probably what I was talking about earlier when I started at Nike, trying to figure out how to be one person in a really big company. So if you do end up designing for a massive brand like Nike, it can be a bit overwhelming. There's a lot of different people with different opinions, and everyone's got an opinion of how they think the products should look. And you just got to be that person who can take all that information and be true to yourself and design something that's true to your style and what you want to do, but also be part of the broader team. So learning to be in a team that big was difficult, especially coming from, Quicksilver is a massive global brand, but, I worked in a pretty tight, small team down in Torquay. We're all good friends. So, transitioning to Nike and just, there's nearly 1,000 designers working at Nike.
Yeah.
It's enormous. So, trying to navigate that.
Yeah. I also have from one of our viewers just wanting to talk about maybe one of his ideas that he has, and if he does have an idea, if he doesn't get back to me in the next couple of minutes, then maybe that could be something that we touch on next week. That if he has an idea, or even if you're happy for us to send through his idea and let us know what you think, then that way he can get the real designer's approval on that. How would that be okay for you to do?
Yeah, sure. Or hit me up on Instagram. I have young designers, send me sketches, pretty regularly, and when I can, I'll send them feedback.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do a bit of a sketch overlay just to kind of, show them how I would fix the proportions of the shoe and how you might make the design a little bit better. But if you go onto Lemonakes online, Instagram, you'll find the link to my account and shoot me a message.
That's awesome. I'd just like to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're so privileged to be able to have you as one of our creators and long-time creators as well for Terminal X. So you guys will be seeing Tim a lot more on our socials, on Slack, on everything. So that's super exciting. Like I said before, if you haven't already gone on Slack, make sure you get about it. There's an actual channel dedicated to sneaker design, so you can ask any question you want under the sun. I'll be posting the sketchbook, the movie that we actually talked about at the start with the snowboarding as well. It just makes it easier to post videos, photos and links and things and stuff in Slack. And it also, no matter where you are, you can use it. So it's really fast and super quick. And I know Tim also recommends it. So make sure you get about that, guys, if you haven't already. But yeah, thank you once again, Tim. And I'm sure that one of our viewers just got back to us, and I'm sure that he'd be happy to inbox you personally as well about the sneaker design and maybe any other questions he might have. But thank you so much, and we can't wait to hear more from you.
Yeah, no worries. Really stoked to be the first of many TX creators.
I know.
Hope you guys
Lucky first.
If you guys are going to go out and use those templates, just have fun with it. You don't have to design a shoe that can be made tomorrow. Just go crazy. Just have fun.
And we'd love to see your designs as well, guys. So make sure you put them on Instagram, put them on Slack. Just post them everywhere, because you should be proud of your designs, and we would love to see what those creative brains are thinking.
All right.
Thanks so much, Tim. See you guys.
See you later.